Welcome to the Mortgage Podcast, where we give tactics, strategies, and inspiration to get you to 10 plus loans per month. We talk a lot about how to make a ton of money in mortgage while also being happy and thriving in your personal life. If you want to be a mortgage millionaire, you're in the right place. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mortgage Podcast with Todd Screama. We're going to have fun today. What we're covering today is the subtle sales stuff that is hard to teach because we're all hardwired a certain way. You know, if you take me, I'm 55 years old and I've been talking a certain way, thinking a certain way, acting a certain way most of my life. So there is a lot of change management with this. What we're talking about is how to influence people. Now, let me do some review just for a second. And I've talked about this before. Any human communication follows this in order. 3 patterns. The first pattern is what Rene Rodriguez calls reptile brain. That is, am I in trouble? Is someone going to yell at me? You're right. Am I in danger? Right. Is this person good for me? That's reptile brain. So if I meet a new person, say it's a loan application, I just got to understand that person is freaked out to start with. They're in reptile brain. The second stage in our job is to get them to emotional brain. I'm safe. I trust this person. I like them. Let me be open to doing business with them and learning from them. Okay. That is the emotion brain. The last thing is the logic brain. And that is, hey, so now that you trust me and you feel safe, here's what I want you to do. And here's why. That's the logic side of all communication. Now, the problem is people don't know how to go deeply emotional fast. And they either don't ever cover that. And so they're just going from reptile brain to logic, which is most common. And they're not doing the middle part. The problem with not doing the middle part is that people still aren't going to follow you most of the time because it's just ABC logic. Let me give you an example. It's not logical to buy a Tesla. I can buy a Ford Fusion for $20,000 less. Now, $20,000 is a lot of money. So logically, I should not buy a Tesla. But Tesla follows, they develop a trusted brand. Then they get very emotional. Now, the emotion is different than a sales setting, but it's still emotion. The emotion goes something like this. Hey, it looks better than a Ford Fusion. Just the body style. Oh, it's got a bigger screen in it, so it must be technologically advanced. In reality, all those screens do the same thing, but the Tesla screen is really big. So it just looks modern. It must do a bunch of stuff. And it's faster than a Ferrari if you buy the big battery one. None of that's logical. You should buy a Ford Fusion. It gets the same, like it doesn't use gas, and it's $20,000 cheaper. But yet, in 2024, at least when I looked this up, Tesla owned 46% of the EV car market. 46%. I'm going to suggest to you, not only that's very dominant, right, for a brand of a car in any sector. They did it through emotion. That may sound really off base to you, but that's how this stuff works. So there's 3, how do we go really deep, really fast with people? And that's really this kind of training, if you will, is really about 3 things. Number 1, asking really good questions, being bold, and asking why a few times to really dig out from the person. What is it that they're really concerned about? What are they afraid about? What are their needs? Why do they have those needs? So it takes a lot of questions and intense listening skills so that you can really get to the heart. Let me give you an example. I interviewed a loan officer yesterday. He's in the Midwest. This loan officer has been in the business 25 years. He's doing 4 loans a month. And I called him. He had interviewed with a couple of our managers. I said, hey, my name's Todd Screama, CEO for Summit. I said, do you have a few minutes so I can get to know you? Lowering the reptile brain, right? A CEO can be intimidating. And so I just want to get to know you. Sure, I'm just eating dinner, he said. I said, great. Then I started in with some questions. I'm going to give you some of those questions here in a minute. Part of it is when I was about 20 minutes in, we got into some super deep questions. And I said, hey, you're joining Summit so that you can close 10 loans a month. You're closing 4. Why do you want to close more loans? And I just shut up. And there was a few seconds of silence. And he said, well, Todd, I got a divorce about 4 years ago and half my money's gone. So I feel very behind. Okay. Do you mind if I ask how old you are? No, I'm 45 years old. Still pretty young. Compliment. Okay. How much do you think you need to retire? $2 million. Okay. How much money do you have now? Bold question. $300,000 plus $200,000 in home equity.
I said, do you know how much you need to save in order to hit that mark by the time you're 65, which is the number you told me you want to retire? He said, no, I don't. So I punched it into my calculator. By the way, you can just ask ChatGPT and you would prompt it and say, hey, I have $300,000. How much money do I need to save over the course of 20 years to have $2 million by the time I'm 65? If my money grows at 10% a year. And it spit out a number. I did it on my calculator, but so I said, well, here's the number. I said, how does that sound to you? And he says, actually, Todd, I live pretty below my means. And yeah, if I did 10 loans a month, I said, well, 10 loans a month, what's your average commission? And we did all the math. He'd make $50,000 a month. He said, well, $50,000 a month, I could save at least 12 grand. I said, well, that's huge. So we did the math and come to find out he'd have like, I don't know, it was $5 million or something when he retired. So this whole conversation took about 20 minutes. And I'm using pregnant pauses. I'm asking bold questions. Then we got into some sales techniques. I am complimenting him at times. I'm empathizing with him at times. I'm sharing pain with him at times. And we got to the end of the call and he says, Todd, I'm going to tell you a couple of things. He says, first of all, I've never got that deep of a financial education in a matter of a few minutes in my life. And number two, I think I got 5 years worth of sales experience with some of the sales techniques you taught me. He says, that was incredible. And then I said, bold question, do you think we can work together? And without hesitation this time, he said, yes. I said, great. I'll talk to Tony, the branch manager, go see him next week. Let's wrap up the details. Now, I could have done that phone call and sounded like this, and I'm going to exaggerate just a little bit. This gentleman's name is Dean. Hey, Dean, it's Todd Screamer with CEO for Summit Funding. How you doing? Oh, good. Good. How you doing, sir? I'm good. Listen, I just was calling. I know you interviewed with a couple of our managers. What do you think? Well, I've been with the same company for 8 years, but I'm kind of enamored with the Jolt stuff. And, the managers seem very sharp. And yeah, I think it's going good. Well, that's good. Why don't you here's my cell phone, call me with any questions. Now, I'm over-exaggerating a little bit, but that's what most of you do. We keep everything on the surface and we don't go deep. It's the iceberg theory, right? 90% of the iceberg is below the surface. We have to get better at getting to the emotional stuff because that's where sales happens. You shouldn't buy the Tesla. It's $20,000 more expensive. But you do 46% of the time. Why? Because you're emotional about it. It doesn't make sense. So the emotion is where people make the decisions. So now we're going to talk about questions, I call them go deep questions, that you can use in order to bolster your sales. Now, by the way, I keep all these on a sheet. So I've got a whole sheet sitting on my desk. And I don't ask all of them, but I'm going to say each one of these. And I would ask, if you're listening, if you're not driving, to pick 5 of them that you can use all the time. Pick 5 of them that you can use all the time in a sales setting so that we can start to go deep. Now, remember, the question is just the question. Once they answer, you got to say, why is that important to you? Why do you say that? You just ask why questions so that they can go uncover the layers. This is the magic, okay? Think of like if you watch Barbara Walters' interview, if you watch Larry King, if you watch Dr. Phil, they have these skills at a high level. If you watch loan officers that close 10 plus loans a month, they have this skill. They have it. It's what separates them. That's why they get the loan. That's why the realtor starts doing business with them. So now there's context to each of these questions. So you don't want to ask a question out of context. If it's too soon, some of these are very bold. You've got to have some rapport with them. We got to get through reptile brain, develop a little trust before we use them. So realize that where you space these questions are very important. Here, some of them are very easy. So let me read these out loud and take a few minutes. And I'm going to pause after each one so that your brain can catch up and you can just think about the question for just a few seconds. What keeps you up at night in your business? Tell me about your upbringing and how you were raised. What is the number one thing you need in your business right now? What is one project you've been meaning to do that you just cannot find the time to get finished in your business right now? What is your worst memory? Careful with that one. What is your net worth goal? Where are you at now? What is the best thing going on in your personal life right now? What would you change about your business right now if you could wave a magic wand? What is the worst thing you've ever done in your life? Careful with that one. What's the biggest thing holding you back right now? What is your 1-year vision? What is your 5-year vision? How am I doing to serve you on a scale of 1 to 10? And what is the number one thing that I could improve for you? I want to start our relationship very transparently. I have thick skin. I want you to be extremely authentic and straightforward with me. Does that work for you? You can use some of those with clients. So now I'm talking about borrowers, but here's some more borrower specific ones. How would you know that this is the right decision a year from now to buy this house? How will you know that buying this house is the right decision a year from now? Same question, just reworded. Why are you buying this house? What's the most important to you about buying this house? What would make this a win for you and your family to buy this house? Why did you pick this house? I could go on and on. These are just good questions. You could use ChatGPT to come up with more. These are good questions, and they are designed to go somewhere. So let me give you just one example so that we kind of wrap this together. Let me pick one of them. What's most important to you about buying this house? I might say, well, say Robin's the loan officer. Robin, I haven't told you this yet, but I'm a single dad and I have a disabled daughter. She was born with a disease and she's wheelchair bound. Oh, wow. That sounds like a lot of responsibility. Why this house? Well, she goes to a special high school. This house is 10 miles closer. And I don't know if you know this, but you know, the doorways on this house, for some reason, they made them extra wide, every single one of them. So her wheelchair fits in the bathroom. Right now, her wheelchair doesn't even fit in our bathroom. She can't even get into her bedroom with her wheelchair. With this house, she can. Oh my gosh, Todd, that's awesome. Sounds like a great find, right? And I could keep going down that path. But I went all of a sudden from I'm doing your mortgage to talking about your disabled daughter and you pouring your heart out to me about your daughter. It doesn't get more personal than that. And when you conduct a meeting this way with a business sale or a business to consumer sale, you're going to win most of the time. Not every single time. Most of the time you will, because you've connected to them on an emotional level and it's obvious that you care about them. It's obvious. Now, some people say, and I used to do this, well, of course I care about them. I met with them, didn't I? Right? That's a very guyish statement. That's as a young loan officer. Of course, they have to feel it. It's not enough for us to tell our kids we love them. We have to show them we love them. It's not enough to love your spouse in your head. You have to show your spouse you love them. So these are the things that really help. This allows you to have fewer meetings and much more impactful meetings, instead of what most people do, which was have a few meetings and make them non-impactful. The next layer up, we have more meetings. We have quite a few meetings, but they're not impactful. I want to give you a goal. Every single meeting, every single interaction you have with someone, I want them to walk away and say, wow, I love that person. Man, I never had a meeting like that. That was incredible. Honey, what did you think? I want it to be a wow. It's a mindset that you take. Adrian and I go on a date or two a week. We had a date night last night. And I asked her, honey, anywhere you want to go. She likes to have choices. And I know this because I pay attention. She says, let's go to Shamai. Man, we only went there once. It's an Asian fusion restaurant. She's like, I love that place. I said, honey, that's awesome. So we had she met at the house and we got dolled up and we go drive down to Shamai. And, it's a beautiful setting. We start eating beautiful food. And I said, honey, I have some go deep questions. I didn't say that. I said, honey, I got some questions for you. And she said, what? I said, let me pull up my exact verbiage because I actually wrote it because I was afraid I would forget the questions. I asked her, oh shoot, no, I lost it. Hold on. Now I forgot it. Hold on. Anyway, let me paraphrase it. It was, what are the 3 things that you need most from me to make you feel most fulfilled in our relationship? She said, say that again. I said, what are the 3 things you need from me that will help you feel the most fulfilled and loved in our relationship? Now, that one question led to her listing out 3 things and spending time articulating them. And then she flipped it on me, and we spent another hour on me telling her what my 3 big needs were. We were at that restaurant for 2 hours. And when we, of course, we get home and we just have all these lovey-dovey feelings, right? Because we just spent 2 hours discussing in detail what makes us feel a certain way and why. I'll give you an example. I shared with her, I said, I came from a divorced family. My parents got divorced and remarried when I was 2. So I had 4 great parents and they were awesome. But I'm very touchy-feely, and my 4 parents are kind of stoic. Kids are to be seen, not heard, like that thing growing up. And they're great parents. They were great examples. They're all hard workers. Like, they were just ethical, good people. But I wanted more love. And so I like the fact that she is very loving towards me, holds my hand all the time, kissing me all the time, like hugging me. She'll come in some days and just hug me straight for 2 minutes. Just a hug for 2 minutes. Oh, my cup fills up. So I know you're like, Todd, are relationships the same as business? No, they're not romantic relationships, but the same principles apply. If you can make people feel heard, you can get them to talk about deeply emotional fears and threats and loving things that they love and really go deep on those subjects, they're going to do business with you most of the time. Now, especially if you're good at what you do, especially if you have a few ways that you can help them. But these go deep questions are magical. And I am shocked how many people don't take 5 of them and ask people every day about those things. I have the same questions I use over and over and over again for 30 years. So I don't need 30 of them, but I need 5 really good ones that I can pull out at any time and use it to really get to know someone. And that's the magic of business. That's where a lot of people go wrong, and then they wonder why they don't get to 10 loans a month. Because you're treating everybody like a lottery machine. Like, you pull the handle and hopefully some money spits out. Now, you're all going to get offended when I say that, but watch your actions. Ask yourself, hey, how many times this week did I slow down and really go deep with someone? And most of you in 5 days may say 1 person or 2 people, but you've met with 20. That's being a robot. That's not being a person of influence. That's my whole point, is you got to develop this skill where you can influence people. You do that through really good questions and really good listening and going really deep with them. And that's the magic, and it does not take that long. I have some great conversations that are 20 minutes long. So just realize this is not a 2-hour meeting. That's not what I'm talking about. So I hope that brings us closer to a skill that we can improve. We all have these skills. We need to improve them. And if you can get to the point to where you can do this on a regular basis, you're going to watch your paychecks just grow. That's what's in it for you. That's not the only reason you're doing it. You got to do it because you care about the people. You truly want to help them. And we're just talking about how to do that faster and develop more rapport and deeper listening skills so that you can truly serve someone. So if this helps you, you may want to send this to another salesperson, a loan officer, maybe even your spouse. Thank you guys for listening. Have a beautiful week. Talk to you soon.